Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll start with a salute to the flag. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Cron, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Dennis Clemens? Here. Mrs. Cullen? Here. Mrs. Dolan?
Here.
Mrs. Kildare? Here. Mr. Grasse?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
Mrs. Walters?
Here.
Mrs. Yardley?
Here.
Dr. Yardell?
Here.
Okay, we will start with student and staff recognition. Dr. Radigan.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to ask the Tech Ed department, please come forward. If you'd stand in the front here. So tonight we are recognizing teachers who probably look familiar. The accolades just keep coming in for them. The Pennridge High School Technology Education Program has been awarded Program of Excellence in Pennsylvania by the Technology Education and Engineering Association of Pennsylvania. Pennridge will now represent Pennsylvania for the International Award at the International Technology Education and Engineering Association Conference this April. The department has undergone a radical change over the last few years. With support from the school board and administration, teachers have incorporated STEM tools and concepts into their traditional woodworking and metalworking classes without sacrificing hands-on craftsmanship. They still have plenty of table saws and routers in the shop, but have supplemented them with 3D printers, plasma cutters, CNC routers, laser engravers, and other high-tech tools. The result is stunning creations such as tables, cabinets, and chairs, as well as guitars and ukuleles in a new program that has generated massive student interest. The other interesting angle is that all 5 of these teachers are graduates of Millersville University's Technology and Engineering program. Department Coordinator Alan Androkaitis, 1979 and 1981, Hank Ward, 1985, Jim Rutkowski, 1985, Bob Miller, 1988, and Matt Peitzman, 2002, have formed a tight-knit group dedicated to providing students with a positive experience while emphasizing quality projects and safe, productive work habits. They have high expectations for their students and willingly provide extra time for students during the day, after school, and on weekends to hone their skills. Since Alan joined the Pennridge staff in 1981, some 27 high school graduates, including Mr. Peitzman, have gone on to attend Millersville. The connection also extends to Pennridge Middle School Technology Education STEM program, where all 4 teachers are Millersville grads. So gentlemen, we thank you for your hard work and in helping to create a program that is benefiting so many students, and we wish you the best of luck in the competition in April. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Also, each January during School Board Recognition Month, we take a few minutes to acknowledge the important work done by our board members. As you know, a quality public education is a key that can open doors of opportunities for many students. Providing that education takes a team of committed teachers and people, from educators and staff to parents and administrators. The 9 members of the Pennridge School District Board are a critical part of the team. As unpaid, locally elected officials, school directors are invested in their communities. They are our neighbors, friends, local leaders, parents, guardians, and engaged senior citizens. During this month of recognition, please take a moment and show your gratitude for the school director's time, dedication, and effort year-round. I have certificates of appreciation that I'm going to come up and to present to them. When I call your name, please stand and stay in place of board members, and I'm going to come around and give you your certificates. So we have 4 new board members this year. They're in their first year. Mrs. Katie Dolan, Mrs. Melissa Calderi, and Mrs. Lisa Walters. Actually, 3 are in their first year. And please stand. And then we have Mrs. Megan Bannis Clemens, 2 years. Mrs. Joan Collins, 2 years. Mr. Bill Krause, 2 years. Mrs. Ada Miller, 6 years. Mrs. Christine Yardley, 8 years. And Dr. Peter Yarnell, 28 years. So let's give them a round of applause. Another round of applause.
Thank you, Dr. Radigan. All right, next up is public comment, and Pennridge School Board welcomes public comment. According to policy 903, we remind everyone of the following. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise specified by the board. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and note their name and municipality. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer rather than to individual board members. District employees are members of the public. A speaker may speak once during each comment period. Please note that these sessions are designated for comments to protect the confidentiality and privacy rights of all members of our community. The board encourages members of the public to direct any comments regarding particular individuals, such as students or district employees, privately to the superintendent or other appropriate administrators or board members, or to communicate with the board and superintendent privately by sending an email to psdschoolboard@pennridge.org. Questions raised and not addressed may be followed up at a later time. I looked at the sign-in sheet on my way in, and there were no names written on the sheet, but if there's anybody else who would like to, if there's anybody here who would like to make a public comment, now is the time. All right, I do not see any, so we will move on to our the items on our agenda. So the first item up is the consent calendar. So I'll make the motion to approve the consent calendar. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Yardley and seconded by Dr. Yarnell. Any comments or questions? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, I will call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Did,
Katie, did you hear that?
okay, yeah. All right, motion carries 9-0. All right, next up is our student liaison report.
Hello, my name is Sydney Herman. I am the corresponding secretary of the student council here at Pennridge High School. Nothing too much to report, but on Friday we were able to visit Grandview Hospital to give them our donation of $5,000. This amount was raised through student council selling t-shirts and wristbands. We were able to sell out of everything, so we were able to make such a huge donation. And that money will be going towards victims with breast cancer, helping them with their wigs, or if they are unable to avoid the, if they are unable to pay for the chemotherapy, that is what the money is going towards. And also February 10th, a Saturday, we are going to be having a winter ball. So that is very exciting, and we're making all the preparations for that. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations on raising so much money. I saw the picture on the district website, and I believe that student council has raised, was it 3? I don't remember.
Money.
Yeah. Do you know how much it was over the past several years?
I'm unsure of the total amount, but I know throughout the entire year through student council and both of the soccer teams, I'm sure cheerleading also raised money. I think it was $10,000 this year from Pennridge High School alone.
Right, that's incredible. Thank you. Thank you for your great work. All right, next up is the President's Report. First thing, I just wanted to extend my thank you to all the board members for your service. It is a job that takes a lot of hours, and so thank you to everyone. And we have, the school board has a lot to do this year. So that's one of some things I'm going to highlight. You'll see on the agenda, Dr. Radigan is retiring, so the board is undertaking a superintendent search, which we are beginning tonight. That's also on our agenda as a contract to approve the IU to help facilitate the search. So that's a big undertaking, and I will be posting from time to time updates on the website, so you can look for that. We also are undertaking negotiations with PEA, so that is in the works. And the board also is going to be undertaking some training in our policy 004. It calls on the board to, I have it here, the board places a high priority on the importance of planned and continuing program of in-service education and training for its members. So we'll be undertaking that hopefully in February, and there's that also is on the agenda tonight, a contract with PSBA to run that board training. So that is all that I have tonight. And next up is Superintendent's Report. Dr. Radigan.
Hey, thank you, Mrs. Yardley. First, I'd like to thank the Sellersville Elementary School for the district office meeting room display. We also have a donation, an anonymous one, of $2,500 to Pennridge High School for the purchase of an additional camera for the automatic track timing system. Our Takes Pride theme of the month of February will be perseverance. Students will be reminded that perseverance is continued effort, usually over a long period of time, in spite of any setbacks, discouragement, or defeats. People who demonstrate perseverance persist in reaching a goal no matter how long it takes or how many failures they encounter. And as always, I have some points of pride. Pennridge, as you know, you just heard from Sydney about the donation from the Student Council. I do have here that so far the student groups this year have donated about $10,000 to Grandview Health, so that's wonderful. More than 100 talented musicians from school districts throughout Bucks and Montgomery counties will gather at Pennridge High School next month for the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association District 11 Orchestra Festival. The first show in October was very well attended. Let's see. Oh, so sorry, wrong page. Co-sponsored by the Pennridge and Palisade School Districts, the 3-day festival, February 8 to 10, includes 112 students who earned a seat in the orchestra based on a sight reading excerpt, a randomly selected section of a solo they prepared, and 3 octave scales. The students will spend 2 days rehearsing under the direction of Maestro Gerardo Edelstein, a renowned conductor and music educator. On Thursday, students will re-audition for seating and to determine their eligibility for Region Orchestra. The festival will conclude with a concert on February 10th at 1:30 p.m. in the Pennridge High School auditorium. Tickets for the concert are $10 each and may be purchased at the door or ordered in advance. Checks should be made payable to Palisades School District and sent to the attention of Marissa Borillo, Palisades High School, 35 Church Road, Kittnersville, Pennsylvania, 18930. Pennridge High School seniors Rena Shepard, Jonas Cole, and Sean Ellis were honored during the 2017 Pennsylvania State Thespian Concert Conference held at Central York High School. Shepard won the Hall of Fame Award for Technical Theater, Cole won the Hall of Fame Award for Acting, and Ellis won a Performance Award for Acting. 42 Pennridge High School students attended the conference, which was held from November 30th through December 2nd. They participated in workshops led by theater professionals and university professors and had the opportunity to see productions from high schools around the state. I'm happy to announce that the District Art Show reception at the Bucks County Justice Center has been rescheduled to February 7th at 6 p.m. The show had been scheduled for January 17th, but was postponed because of the weather. We are the featured school district in the jury room at the Justice Center for the entire year. This is the second of 3 receptions that will be held with all new artwork. The first show was well attended in October, and our students were thrilled that so many people turned out to see their creations. So even if you do not have a student whose artwork is on display, please join us as we celebrate the many talents of our student artists. Congratulations to senior Nick Tarburton, who was named Defensive Player of the Year for football in the state of Pennsylvania by Football News for the 6A Division. Nick is currently in an early enrollment program at Penn State. 9 students will represent Pennridge High School at the PMEA District Chorus next weekend. This is the largest Pennridge contingent to attend in the last 20 years, according to teacher Steve Mosser. Good luck to Selena Baer, Pragun Badwa, Kristen Dowling, Gwen Gemmel, Christine Hayes, Stephen Kantronowitz, Ellie Kenworthy, Daniel Mainieri, and Daniel Walker. We also had 3 students participate in the district band competition: Jasmine Chavu, Megan Lee, and James Morrison. Good luck to James, who will continue in the regional band. Do you know someone who has had a positive impact on Pennridge students over a period of time? Someone whose hard work and dedication is worthy of public recognition? If so, please consider submitting a nomination for a 2018 Friend of Education Award from the Pennridge Community Education Foundation. Applications are due by Friday, January 26th. You could nominate a teacher, administrator, staff member, parent, volunteer, school director, custodian, bus driver, anyone, an individual or an organization who has made indelible contributions to our school community. You can find more information and a nomination form on the foundation website. And in the midst of all this news, I do have to tell everyone that we lost a member of the Pennridge family this past week. Mr. Joseph Weber, he was a bus aide and a substitute driver. He passed away suddenly last week. And although not with the district a long time, Joe made a positive and lasting impression on those who knew him. After a development such as this, we are reminded how fragile life is and that we should cherish every minute we have with our loved ones. As always, we will work through this situation as a family and support each other to cope with this loss. Please join me in a moment of silence as we keep Joe's family in our thoughts and prayers during this very difficult time. Mrs. Jordan, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Radigan. We will go to committee reports, and the first up is activities. Mrs. Cullen?
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. The Activities Committee met on January 3rd. We have the minutes there on the agenda. The highlights of the meeting were that we got a summary of how the Link Crew, or an update on how our Link Crew freshman orientation program is going. It sounds like it's going very well, and it will continue. We'll be sending more teachers to be trained in the program. The other big highlight of our meeting was the district calendar. The biggest change on the district calendar is that we will be starting this year after Labor Day due to how Labor Day fell. And that's going to give us a longer summer than usual, 12 weeks. So we had some discussion about what we could do possibly to offer students support during the summer. So the only motion that I have for tonight is the approval of that 2018-19 Pennridge School District calendar.
there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Cullen, seconded by Mrs. Miller. Any comments or questions?
I just have a question. Dr. Price, would you be able to give some clarity to an email that we received from a parent about paying close attention to Jewish holidays? I know that this came up last year, and we were, comparing calendars, but I know there's also a tough balance with matching with the other two schools. I was just wondering if you could kind of explain a little bit about, why we're not able to accommodate that this year, or, how that factored into that process.
So the past practice of Pennridge as far as the Jewish holidays, at least in recent years, has been to award one day off for the Jewish holidays. And if both Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah occurred during a school day, Yom Kippur was the day that was given off for students. Some years one of those falls on the weekend, so then the other one is given off. So for instance, in 1819, in September, Yom Kippur falls on a Wednesday, Rosh Hashanah falls across a Monday, Tuesday. So school's in session for Rosh Hashanah in that year, but off for Yom Kippur. Last year, then, by contrast, though, in 1718, this current calendar, Rosh Hashanah was on a Thursday, Friday, so that was the holiday that was given off on that Thursday. Yom Kippur happened to be on a weekend, so it wasn't a factor in that instance. So some years it looks like it's shifting one to the other, but it's kind of depending on what falls on the weekend and what doesn't. So districts handle this differently. We kind of studied this last year, and the three schools had decided that they were going to continue to give one day off for the Jewish holidays, as opposed to adding additional days into the calendar at the end of the school year. And that's really what the discussion has been the years that I've been a part of the calendar development.
So I'm sorry, so you're saying we have off the one because it's a weekend and that's the one that's counted, or we're having off the other?
No, we don't count, no. If it falls on the weekend, then the other one is the one that's awarded. So it's Yom Kippur, unless Yom Kippur falls on the weekend, then it would be Rosh Hashanah. If they both fall on school days on weekdays, then Yom Kippur is the day that's been given off. And my understanding is because that's considered the higher of the two holy days. Was my understanding.
Okay, so, but I thought we didn't have them off, but you're saying we do?
We do. We have one Jewish holiday off each school year.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I will call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? So motion passes 8-1. She said aye. Yeah. So, yeah, I said nay.
Oh, you said
Yes. Motion carries 8-1. All right, Mrs. Cullen?
I'm looking, I don't see the next date here listed for the activity meeting, Dr. Price.
March 7th.
March 7th, your next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Next up is curriculum. The curriculum committee was scheduled to meet on January 8th, but it was canceled that evening because of the weather. I believe we had an early dismissal from school that day, so all evening events were canceled. We do have a few motions. Our next meeting is at the beginning of February, so the board there were a lot of items in January and not much time in between, so the January items will be on the February meeting, and then we will see at that point if we need to schedule another one in February or just move on to the March one. But I do have a few motions tonight, and so I will just go right to those. So the first is a motion to approve the Pennridge Community Education Foundation Grant Awards. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Yardley, seconded by Mrs. Cullen. Any comments or questions? Okay, I believe, Yeah, so Mrs. Donovan is here, so we will, I guess we'll vote on that, and then Mrs. Donovan can come up. Okay. All right, so any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries 9-0. So Mrs. Donovan is a member of the Education Foundation, and I believe she would like to present the grants.
I would indeed. I turn this on? Like that? Okay. Yes, it's my pleasure to be here this evening, and it's always fun to give out money. Pennridge Community Education Foundation has a mini grant program which we've been offering for several years, and over the years it has increased in popularity, and we've received this last time, I think like 25 applications for grants. Unfortunately, we're not able to fund all of them. So we have a committee on the foundation board of 4 of us that get together and review all of those applications and choose those depending on our mission as well as what we think the applications will serve the most students and provide the broadest benefit to those students, as well as we look to see for some creativity and some unique opportunities. So you tell me how you'd like to do this. I have the individual checks. The checks are made out to the district. However, I'd like to present them to each individual if they're here, and then they can work with the district to have the checks deposited, okay? So if you are here and I call out your name, please stand up and I'll be glad to give you the check. The first one is for Jeremy Friedman for the media room in the high school, $1,000, okay? Very good, hon. Very good. Thank you. I understand the media room is growing very well, and we look forward to some new opportunities seen that way. Okay. Danielle Benner and Lori Sands, guided reading for $1,000 at Grasse. Suzie Showalter, Coding to Life Skills, West Rockhill, $700. Okay, and I have one name there. Thank you. Thank you. Kristen, Otto, first grade Easel in Sellersville. That's for $500. Thank you very much. Thank you. Lauren Draper, collaboration through escape rooms at North Middle School, the gifted program. And Marie Abissi, Project Reach Club at Grasse for $250. Thank you very much. Thank you. Joanne Naudasher, guided reading at Guth.
Sue Hanson as well.
Oh, and Suzie.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Diane Coleman, Rock Garden Inspiration at Sellersville. And then I do have one other check to present to the board, and that is for $1,000. That's the 4th payment on the PCEF's stadium contract sponsorship. So we're 4 years into it, we have a commitment, we want to see that through, so I have $1,000. Just for a recap real fast, it was like $5,575 in mini grants awards and $1,000. So our group is all volunteer, and we appreciate the support certainly of the board, administration, the teachers, the staff, as well as the community. Obviously, that is where our funds come from. Thank you very much.
All right, next I would like to make a motion to approve the following program improvement proposal. Lifeguarding, implementation of the proposed educational program is contingent upon the availability of budget resources and sufficient student enrollment. This was discussed at the November curriculum board meeting, I believe, and the other motions, or the other items discussed that night were approved already, and this one was missed. So I move to approve lifeguarding. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Yardley, seconded by Mrs. Cullen. Any comments or questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0. All right, and then the last motion is a motion to approve the donors choose proposal for Mr. Ken Ehrman, 5th grade teacher at Seiler Elementary School. This was on the January agenda, and we didn't meet, but we'd like to move it forward for approval by the board, that he can go out and apply for, apply for this grant, really, or apply for the donor choose, and then, he'd be able to start raising money that way. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Yardley, seconded by Dr. Yarnell. Any comments or questions? All right, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries 9-0. Okay, the next curriculum meeting is scheduled for February 5th at, there's also a technology meeting, so that I believe will start at 6:30, and the curriculum meeting will follow. All right, next committee report is facilities. Mrs. Vanis Clemens.
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. The Facilities Committee met on January 10th, and there were two topics of discussion that didn't require a vote tonight. One was, was changing the lighting in the lobby. We're going to try to provide an area where we can start to display some of the artwork that we have obtained over the years for the district. And another one was the Hilliard CCAP program, which is offered to us for free from a vendor that we use that will help us kind of streamline the materials that we're using for cleaning products and things like that, and help us to save money, and all of that is no cost to the district. So those are some things that we discussed at the facilities meeting. And there's one motion on the table, and that is the obsolete items. So I'm going to put forth a motion to obsolete items A through I.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, moved by Mrs. Vanis Clemens and seconded by Mr. Kraus. Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
The next Facilities Committee meeting is scheduled for February 7th.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Vanis Clemens. The next committee report is Finance. Dr. Yarnell.
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. We did have a Finance Committee meeting on January 10th. The minutes are here posted, and I would like to thank, I was unable to attend, being out of town. I would like to thank Mrs. Yardley for chairing that meeting on my behalf. We have three motions to bring before the board tonight. First is the approval of contracts. Those contracts there are 14 of them. They're listed as A through N, and I move that we approve the contracts as listed.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Yarnell and seconded by Mrs. Miller.
Vote on some of those separately. I'd like to vote on those separately, please.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I was getting to that, comments or questions. So, yeah,
Sorry.
that's okay. Which item would you like to vote on separately?
It's F, hold on, I'm trying to leave my spirit. F, K, and I think it's F and K.
Okay, F and K. All right, so for motions A through N, excluding F and K, do I have any comments or questions? All right, I have a comment. Letter N is the contract with PSBA, and that's what I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. It does have a date on it, which we are not doing our training that night, so I just wanted to share that with board members that when we get the new date, we will get an updated contract, but everything else will stay the same. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. Any other comments or questions on A through N excluding F and K? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries 9-0. All right, so do we, Mrs. Dolan, did you want to do F and, well, we'll do F and then we will vote on that and then we'll do K. Okay, so item F is the Lehigh University high school graduation contract. Comments? Do I need another motion, Mr. Cox?
No, you don't.
Okay.
As long as everyone knows, this vote will be on F for Lehigh University.
Okay. All right. Right, because we had a motion for, and a second for all of them. Right. Okay, so comments or questions on item F?
I have a comment. Since our last meeting, we had the pre-bid meeting, and it was determined that the amount of time that it would take to do the turf project would be significantly less than what was allotted. So we would have been able to, push that back to hold graduation here. I know there's not support to do that, but that in mind, I've heard a lot from the community that they want to have the graduation moved back to Pennridge, and that is why I'm going to be opposing this vote, and because I would prefer to see the graduation moved back to Pennridge.
Any other comments or questions? Mrs. Cohen?
Yeah, I am in support of revisiting the conversation about having the graduation at Pennridge. I mean, back when we had our conversations about moving or completing the stadium project here, uniting everything at this one campus, that was one of the reasons I, as a member of the public, wanted to see the stadium project completed, was because I thought it would be nice to have graduation at home. And we did explore that last year. There wasn't support for it. But I am going to vote in support of this motion tonight because what we asked the administrators to do, they presented a plan, and I think for this year, it makes sense. It's already almost February, and so I will support this, but I also support looking into bringing graduation home.
Any other comments?
I also want to just state that I agree with everything that Mrs. Coleman just said about exploring options of having graduation back at home in the future. But for this year, I think it makes sense, and I will be supporting it to be at Lehigh for this year.
Any other comments? I'll just point out that it was discussed May 4th, 2016 is the last time that graduation was discussed. It was at the Activities Committee meeting when the high school administration presented the different options and the board discussed it. So I believe at the last, at the finance meeting, when this contract came up, there was some discussion. So we will look to have another discussion this spring and at an activities committee meeting, which would either be March or May, is I believe they're scheduled. Although I think the second one is April, it might be April 30th, right? So it's at the end of April, beginning of May is when we have it. So at one of those meetings, we can revisit the topic. All right, any other comments or questions? Okay, so I will call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so that was 4, I believe. Okay, so motion carries 5-4. All right, and then the next item is item K, Geese Chasers, Southeastern PA. Any comments or questions?
I have a comment. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Katie, you go first.
Katie, go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. I just wanted to say that I think that there's other options I'm looking for, like getting a set of swans in
in my personal experience with having a large body of water on our property, having a set of swans was the only thing that kept the geese off of our pond. And that is where I'm going to be voting nay to the geese chasers. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Can you turn her mic on the next time she speaks, please?
Will do.
Or ask her to repeat this, I couldn't hear.
She said that she was in favor of having swans rather than this option. And she said on her property, they have a pond, and that swans was what was effective. Mrs. Van's comments?
And to her point, actually, I found out that at Millersville, they have Mill and Seville who keep all of the geese away from, their pond and the grounds there. And so, I think that that's another option. Another option that is available is the Away with Geese, which is a solar option and a more humane option, and it doesn't include egg addling, it doesn't include chasing the geese with dogs, and it's a 180-day money-back guarantee. If you get geese back, it's significantly less money. It's like $200 to $300 per solar light, and it covers an 3.5-acre radius. It's it's guaranteed, and you have that one-time cost, and there's all these testimonials that show that it has worked for many other people. And this particular option would be a recurring cost that would go on indefinitely of $13,000 to $14,000 a year. And we don't have anyone who says that it worked, they're not coming back, and we don't have to continue to pay the geese chasers. And I know other organizations that have hired the geese police, and years later they're still there, chasing the geese because they still keep coming back. So I just think that there's better options that are more cost effective out there, and that's why I'm not supporting this also.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I will call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. All right, I think the motion fails 4-5. Am I correct? I don't know. Well, yes.
Who voted?
Yeah.
Who voted no?
I voted no.
Okay.
Actually, so 6. So actually, the motion fails 3-6.
Did it pass or
No.
No, motion fails 3-6. Okay. Dr. Yarnell.
Thank you. The next item is a motion to approve a new student activity account. It's for the high school executive council, the class of 2021. And I move that we do so.
Do I have a second? Okay, moved by Dr. Yarnell, seconded by Mrs. Walters. Comments or questions? All right, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Dr. Yarnell?
Thank you. Third motion is a approval of a resolution of tax assessment appeal. This is something that the solicitor has been working on for some time, and informed the board of the outcome of it, and I'm offering tonight that we approve this reassessment, basically.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Yarnell, seconded by Mrs. Miller. Any comments or questions? I just want to make a comment that I will be abstaining from this vote. Any other comments or questions? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry, to Mrs. Dolan?
Oh, I said aye.
Okay, all right,
I don't know how it's doing.
that's fine. Opposed? Okay, and I abstain, so motion carries 8-0-1. Dr. Yarnell?
Thank you. I would note that the next Finance Committee meeting is on February 7th, 2018, along with the facilities meeting. That night, we will start the process of reviewing the 2018-2019 budget. There will be the introduction on that topic, and there were 4 more meetings scheduled, one for each of the succeeding months on the budget presentation, possibly even more, depending on what the board requires in order to come to consensus on the budget. The other thing I want to mention tonight is that a constituent did call me prior to Christmas about the possibility of paying forward taxes, 2018 school taxes, in light of what was going on in Washington in terms of the tax revisions. As it turns out, after consulting with the solicitor and another attorney, Pennsylvania really does not have any enabling legislation that allows that. In fact, they forbid it because you cannot pay forward taxes unless the assessments have already been made. And I know that's something that differs state by state and jurisdiction by jurisdiction. I happen to pay property taxes to the state of New York, and they were allowing prepayment of their taxes, but there is a difference. New York State has their municipal taxes, which actually turn out to be higher than their school taxes in an interesting turn of events. Their municipal taxes are paid on the discount period prior to January 31st. And so obviously the assessments are made in the preceding year. The bills are sent out literally, if not on New Year's Day, they certainly go out the first business day of January. So I believe people, because of the way that was set up, they could indeed do that. So that is the answer. I wanted to make sure that the public knew that we had investigated that, but there was no possibility of doing so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Danielle. And yeah, there was an article in the Intelligencer at the end of December explaining that as well. All right, the next committee report is the IU, and I would like to, before Mrs. Miller starts, I just want to offer my congratulations.
We didn't get to vote on it yet because we did it by...
Okay, I will hold off.
We did it by telephone, that's a yes, so hold on.
Okay, all right, Mrs. Miller.
Thank you. So it's not official.
Okay.
So thank you, Mrs. Yardley. The Bucks IU met on January 16th, and as a note, we did meet through telephone conference because of inclement weather, so we did not hold any committee meetings. The Bucks IU recently hosted a community event dealing with addiction and opiate awareness and Narcan training with over 50 community members in attendance. It was a partnership with the Bucks County Drug and Alcohol Commission and other community partners. A demonstration was provided on how to administer Narcan, and a dose of Narcan was given to attendees free of charge. Bucks County STEAM Leadership Council recently met for the second time to learn and collaborate with one another with a focus for this particular meeting on education and the workforce. It was designed not only to share the STEAM teaching and learning that is occurring throughout Bucks County, but to begin sharing the way school districts partner with different industries. Our own Mr. Ken Ehrman, 5th grade teacher at Siler, who was just mentioned previously, presented on how he created an elementary maker space for his school. The students are able to design and sell keychains printed from a 3D printer to generate funds for more equipment. Nicely done, Mr. Ehrman. I'm not sure if you're here. He's here. Is he here? Where are you? There you go. Thank you. We at the Bucks IU are very proud of our students and their accomplishments. So if you have a chance, stop by the IU or take a virtual tour through the website. The artwork is displayed by elementary students from Everett School. As a reminder, Everett provides services for students with emotional needs, autism, and those with brain injuries. And I would also like to recognize Mary Lowe, job coach for the Bucks IU, for facilitating employment for 2 students. Jessica is working in the kitchen at Knox Cafe in Sellersville, and Angel is a facility assistant working at Pearl S. Buck International in Ferguson. So congratulations to all. Also, Mrs. Yard, I'd like to mention in our legislative report, they discussed Senate Bill number 2. That is the bill that establishes an education savings account, and this voucher program is estimated to siphon $500 million from the state's public school districts and send it to private schools, religious schools, private vendors, and even personal tutors. PSBA reports the vouchers will cost, not save money for the taxpayers. So PSBA is recommending that we develop a resolution and approve it and send it on to our legislators. It's one step, certainly the grassroots Everyone contacting their legislators is very effective, but this is one of our tools. So I'm putting that out to you, Mrs. Jarrett, if you would like to consider that, and maybe write up a resolution and send forward. We would have to vote on it. It has been, it's scheduled for action very quickly. They're expecting a quick approval by the Senate Education. And as they return, it's going to start moving through the House and Senate pretty quickly. Thank you. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 20th at 7 p.m. Oh, I also, by the way, have a copy of that resolution if you're interested. We're scheduled for February 20th at 7 p.m. and our meeting will be held at the Bucks IU building in Doylestown.
I just want to mention, I believe Mr. Ehrman had he was at the Pennridge Community Education Foundation, a lovely evening, I believe it was last year, right? And he was demonstrating the 3D printer. I believe he received a grant, one of the grants, like the grants that were handed out tonight, he had a grant in a previous year, and he was demonstrating the 3D printer and the things that the students had made, so that was really great. Okay, next committee report is personnel. Mrs. Cullen.
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. We did not meet with the Personnel Committee, but there are a few motions for tonight. The first one is for the approval of the staffing agreement for Mr. Gottschall, who is serving as the interim principal at Central Middle School. So I'm forwarding that motion for approval.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Cullen, seconded by Dr. Yarnell. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries 9-0. Mrs. Cullen.
Okay, our second motion for tonight is a motion to approve the retirement, reluctantly, I have to say, of Superintendent Dr. Jacqueline Radigan, effective the end of June 2018.
Do I have a second? Moved by Mrs. Cullen, seconded by Mrs. Vanis Clemens. Any comments or questions?
I'll just make one comment.
Two of us.
I mean, I know that we'll get the chance to honor Dr. Radigan before she leaves us, but since there's so many people here tonight, I do want to say right now that I appreciate your service that you've given to Pennridge.
I'd also like to say a few things. Under Dr. Radigan's excellent leadership, Pennridge earned a Program of Excellence Award from the Technical Education and Engineering Association of PA. 21st century curriculum was introduced. STEM classrooms were brought to our middle schools and STEM expanded at the high school. Programs in math, reading, and writing were updated to address the gap in scores. Sound fiscal policies and practices were implemented, and our buildings, as noted in our building utilization study, are in great shape. Dr. Radigan also brought social and emotional learning to Pennridge, and SEL has been recognized throughout the field of education for its importance in educating the whole child and increasing the success of students through their educational process and on into the workforce. Dr. Radigan recognized and acted on the need to increase security throughout our buildings, classrooms, and buses by installing cameras and implementing the ALICE program. I am very sad to see you go, and I have to say I'm very proud that I was on the committee that brought you to our district. So thank you, Dr. Radigan, for everything you've done. You've left our district in wonderful shape. Thank you.
Say thank you for the kind words. I had a staff meeting today, and the people you really want to thank are some of the people that are out here, because I said whoever the next superintendent is, I am sure they're going to be very happy because they've inherited a wonderful staff, and it starts at the cabinet level. Every single department that we have here, I am extremely proud of them. It's been my honor to work with them. I've learned a lot from them. Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? I just want to add my thank you to Dr. Radigan. Mrs. Miller covered a lot of her achievements. So I don't need to go through that again, but Dr. Radigan has been an educator for 35 years, so an impressive career. I believe she started as a math teacher in Catholic school. Right, and then she worked at Neshaminy for many years as a teacher, principal, and assistant superintendent, and then she's been here at Pennridge for 5 years. So it's, and being a superintendent is a difficult job, and I believe it's become more intense over the last, 5 to 10 years because of the internet and social media. I believe it's a very, very intense job that never stops. And, in addition to all of the wonderful accomplishments that Mrs. Miller recognized, I just want to say that as a school director, I've appreciated Dr. Radigan's work and her service, and she has always been very responsive to board concerns and questions. And since she announced her retirement, she continues to work hard, and I know, she will up until the end, and serving the Pennridge community. So I just want to add my thank you and congratulations on your retirement. And I'm sure we will have another time before you leave to celebrate and reminisce. So now I will call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Is that one nay?
I don't know, it's mine.
Yeah.
Did Katie say?
Katie
She
said
she said aye. Yeah, so motion carries 8-1. All right, Mrs. Cullen.
Our last motion is an approval of the contract with the BCIU to conduct the superintendent search. This is what Mrs. Yardley alluded to earlier. It is our agreement with the IU. They're going to help us find our next superintendent.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Cullen, seconded by Mrs. Miller. Comments or questions?
I have a comment. We met with them for the first time tonight, if I'm allowed to say that, and I have to say I already feel comfortable with them, and I'm glad that we've enlisted their service because I think it will be very helpful.
And I will just mention, I believe it's on the agenda, the IU is waiving their fee for this service, so there is no cost to the district for this. The only cost will be any expenses that the IU incurs in the search process, and that is not to exceed $5,000. Okay. Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries 9-0. Mrs. Cullen.
Our next personnel meeting is scheduled for March 7th. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Next committee report is policy. Mrs. Miller.
Policy did not meet this month. Policy Review Committee did not meet this month, and we are scheduled for March 7th as well.
Okay, next item is the Upper Bucks County Technical School. Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley. The board, the JOC did meet on December 21st. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend, and I will ask Dr. Yarnell to fill us in.
Thank you, Mrs. Yardley and Mr. Kraus. Indeed, the December meeting at the Vocational Technical School is, as here, a night of actually two meetings, the first of which is the reorganization meeting, and that indeed did take place that night. We welcomed the two new members from Pennridge, Mrs. Dolan and Mrs. Kildare was there as well as Mr. Kraus, who's now a full-fledged member as opposed to the alternate. In addition to that, we did, as I mentioned, elect the officers. The officers at the Vocational Technical School rotate among the three sending schools, Pennridge, Palisades, and Quakertown. This year, Mr. Masantri from the Palisades School District will be the chairperson for the year. I am going to be the vice chairperson this year, and Mr. Oshmanowitz, whose name I probably mangled, but a director from the Quakertown District will serve as treasurer for the year.
Can you repeat the question?
The question?
Didn't Mr. Lester, wasn't Lester, isn't Mr. Howell this year?
Mr. Howell, chairman.
Mr. Hallowell